Hi, it's good to have you back. And for those of you that have subscribed, thank you so much for doing that. And for those of you that are dropping by, I hope today that there's something that will inspire you, encourage you, maybe something that's thought provoking, obviously from my point of view, but I hope we can, share and maybe talk about that, going forward. Today, I want to talk about what happens when we meet people, whether it's that really brief, you know, firing backwards and forwards, two or three exchanges of conversation in the street for politeness or for whatever reason, whether it's friends or whether it's work colleagues, whether it's business or family. What actually happens when we meet that person and they meet us for that brief moment or for an extended moment? And that's what I want to talk about today and explore in this video. When we meet people, I call them transactions, and I have been doing so not just recently, for at least a good maybe 2 years. If that's too much, maybe 18 months, but certainly for some time, I've been exploring this transaction, the backwards and forwards that we make when we meet people. And that can be people that we meet, like I said, possibly earlier, on the underground, whether it's friends, whether it's business associates, whether it's a transaction that's happening when we buy something in shops or supermarkets, or people that we meet outside of work. What's actually happening with that? What is that all about? What's taking place? Is it just a conversation? Is it just about you giving something and them giving something back? What actually happens on that level? Is it more than just the social interaction that we have that kind of is fulfilled for that moment or that time that we choose to give to it? Transactions, as I call them, are happening every day, whether it be on the underground, somebody lets you sit down, or they don't let you sit down, or there's a quick exchange perhaps of a smile, and I'll talk about that a bit later. They can be happening at the shops when you're out just buying your groceries. There could be that quick fire backwards and forwards with the person that's serving you, or not, because everything's so automated now. It can be with friends, it can be with family, it can be that business contact that you've had to meet because you need that face to face. And even though I'm talking about face to face contacts, it's even, of course, our social media, because we're transacting with someone. It could be they've put their picture out there, or they've put a story, and for that brief moment, they're sharing something with us and we're sharing something with them. So when you look at it from a conversational level, or a conversation, whether it be through social media or a face to face, there's something that you're transacting because it's two way. But like you, I would, because you're probably thinking that possibly that they're not always two ways. Sometimes it can be, I'm choosing to give you something. I'm choosing to let you into my space on the road, or I'm choosing to get up and give you a seat on the underground, or I'm choosing to, I don't know, like your picture. At that point, there's a slight sense of what would call inequality, because you're the one that's giving. But on a whole, I would say that they're about giving and receiving, and these transactions are happening every day. So, what are transactions? My point of view is, and I'm sure it's not my exclusive point of view, but I believe that transactions are exchanges, and that then begins to really unravel, begins to dig deeper, between the exchange that happens when you meet someone remotely, face to face. And I keep saying that because obviously there's different ways that we're meeting now. So that transaction is about time. You and I have agreed to, or you and that person have agreed to meet at a certain time, perhaps in a certain location. But irrespective of the location, you and that person have transacted the commodity of time. And I always say about time, time is a precious commodity. I may lose money, but I can make that money back. But if I lose time, I cannot necessarily get that time back. God says that he would restore the years that have been taken from us, and he does that in a way that we cannot even begin to understand. But on a human level, you and I, we can't get our time back. So again, that then becomes a transaction of time. Whether it's there's equality in that, because it could be that the discussion that you're having with someone, or the interaction, the meeting that you're having with that person, is more weighted by them or by you. And it may be that you're now beginning to look at your time and thinking, this time is up, but there's more time that they want from you. So again, there may not necessarily be equity in that time. Who's sharing, who's giving, who's taking, who's receiving. But certainly to begin with, there was an agreement that the transaction would be time. Transactions can also be about money, and goods. You give me something, an exchange, as I said. You give me something, I'll pay you for this. That then again is a transaction. Transactions can be about, on another level, transactions are about, they can be non-verbal. How about a smile? How about if you decided to smile at someone today? And I do that very often. I will smile at people, and 9 times out of 10, people will exchange back with a smile, or they'll affirm it in some way, acknowledge it, may I say, in some way. So again, that is a transaction. A smile is a transaction. I remember many years ago, I was out and I met a woman who had her niqab. And as we both passed each other, I smiled at her, she smiled at me, and the connection we made through our eyes was powerful. And, so many of us would have experienced that later on with the different way that we had to present ourselves during that time. But that time's gone and we're now here. So smiles are transactions. How about when someone, you're out, and I do that very often. I might see another woman and say, "You look really gorgeous today." Or I might say, probably not so much that, but I might say, well, it depends really. But I might say, "Oh, I love your shoes," or, "Oh gosh, I love that dress. Where did you get it?" And it's amazing how 9 times out of 10, in fact, I can't remember a time when I've complimented a woman when I'm out and said, and I don't do it all the time, but there's times when I just feel, I want to give you something today. And what I get back is a sense of, oh, thank you. And it could be for that brief moment, that woman didn't feel that amazing in that dress, or the way she did her hair or her shoes. But I chose to give her something, and she chose to give me something back. So there's so much beauty in those transactions, the exchanges, as I call them. They're exchanges, and exchanges are powerful. Transactions are powerful. It's not just meeting. It's not just the process of that interaction. It's time. It's non-verbal. It's money. So on so many levels, and I'm sure that you begin to start thinking about, okay, how else are we transacting? Of course, in our relationships, we're transacting all the time, and that there is another level. That's another discussion for another day, but we're transacting on many levels. Have you ever thought about the words that are transacting? And I may have mentioned this earlier, but words are powerful. People are giving words and using words. they're giving words and we're receiving words, may I say. Words are powerful to lift you up and to make you feel good about whatever that situation is, whether it be yourself, whether it be something that you've produced, whether it be your work. Words are powerful. Words bring information on so many different levels that, this video doesn't allow time for me to go into. But words are powerful. The Bible says that in our mouths we have the power of life and death lies in our tongue. Our tongue can also be a weapon to take someone down, and we don't even realise what we're doing. And even if we may not be using our tongue, we can be busy on social media making comments, being that, as I said, that, as we've heard, that keyboard warrior. But words are, however we choose to use our words, they're powerful. And words can be, once you send a word out, it's received by that person. Once someone says something to me, I've received it. And it very much at that point depends on what I do with those words. Do I let those words stay and become part of my mental process? Or do I say, no, I can't receive that. And in my case, I will go to God about those words and take those words down. Because if I let those words stay, those words have power to begin to manifest in my life. And that's not the way that God teaches us to handle words, to deal with words. If we don't like something, we push it away. Children do that. They don't like their food, they're pushing it away, or they'll just say nope, or do their heads like this when we're trying to get the meal in. But words are powerful, so we can either choose to accept those words or reject those words. And words, again, it's about an exchange. Things are being said, words are being said, ideas are being exchanged, words of life or words to take someone down. So be aware of the words that are being spoken to you and the words that you're giving out. So let's now get to that most crucial layer of transactions, exchanges. People are not just physical. What you see is not necessarily what you get. And I say that because people are physical. So of course we know it goes without saying. People are also have a soul, their mind, their will, and their feelings, their emotions. And people also have a spirit. So if you think of it on this level, that every time that we speak, we release words, words are spirit. You can't see them. They're pneuma is the word, they're spirit. But every time those words are released, those words have frequencies. And those frequencies either tune into the frequencies of God or the frequencies of outside entities. And some words are very just everyday, talking about just life. But some words are more than that. They contain so much more. But every word we speak is spirit. And so, have you ever thought about or wondered, or has that ever happened to you, I guess, is that when you have someone over for dinner or you have some friends over for whatever reason, when they leave, have you ever sensed that your home feels different for that brief moment? And I don't know whether it's that psychological come down of, it's really lovely to have them home around, but now I can just, relax. But I think it's more than that, because there's sometimes the home feels different, but in a good way. And I'll speak about that, in another video. And that's because there's like a resonance has been created. Ideas and words, as I've said earlier, have been exchanged. So it's really important, that leads me on to my next point, to be aware of who that you're transacting with, are you the one that's giving and they're receiving? Or is it on an equal basis, even more so, that you're giving, they're receiving, they're giving, you're receiving? Think about, how do you feel when that person leaves, or that interaction, or that exchange stops? Are you left feeling drained, or are you left feeling elated? Are you left feeling, I really want to see that person again because we connected? You connected in ideas, and you may have connected in the things that you like, but you also connected on a spiritual level. So be aware of who you are exchanging with and what you want from that exchange, and not necessarily always what you want. And it's also about, what are you prepared to give into that person's life for the time that you're with them, whether it be out and about, whether it be in your home, in their home, or whether it be through social media. What are you giving? Because it's the giver that's always going to be the one that receives, not necessarily from that person, because you might not always receive what you want, but God always gives back. And when we think about how Jesus moved when he was on the earth, he was always interacting with people, and he was always the one that was giving, always the one that was giving out, whether it be food, whether it be healing, whether it be words of encouragement, wisdom, words to really build people up. But it was never ever to take them down. And whenever he did use words, it was to challenge a system, the religious system that was there to keep people in a certain frame of being, a certain frame of thinking. And that is the whole business of religion. That's what it does. It keeps people in an area where they cannot move. But Jesus came to just be with them, to set them free, to sit on the beach and cook fish. Can you imagine what that must have, if you begin to use your imagination and, all of your sensory experiences, or put, your senses into it, can you imagine what that must have been like? The sight of food, fish being cooked over coals, or however it probably was cooked that day. And I'm sure it couldn't have been too dissimilar from what I've just, described. Not just the visually, how it must have smelt, the whole experience. And there was Jesus cooking for men that were hungry. And he wasn't only just going to feed them, he was also going to give them what they needed for their lives and for their families. And he did that for the women too. We hear of a few instances where it was the person or the people that he was with that were giving. And there are many examples of that I will share with you on another day. But suffice to say that he was transacting, he was exchanging all of the time, but he was the one doing the giving. And that hasn't changed. What God wants to do, particularly in times like this, is to exchange with us. And he wants to exchange with us his life into our lives, and not just hearing it from, on a Sunday or whatever days that you receive, but it's about hearing it and then being part of our lives on a Monday morning, in that family situation, in that dynamic of work, where you're so much under pressure and, you're being observed all the time, whether it be however they do it, and whether it be you're physically there, or, it's through, Teams or whatever. It could be that, relationship that's really difficult at the moment. It can be financially, the financial challenges that are there. It could be the physical challenges that you're experiencing, and so there are so many different ways in which, and so many ways that are not, there's an endless list of how God places his life, his pneuma, his spirit into our lives so that he can walk in our shoes and know what it's like to walk to the bus stop or to get into the car. And I literally mean that. So this is how God comes into our lives, and this is how he exchanges for us. He exchanged his life for us to give us life that we could live in 2024 and so and beyond. So I just want to kind of leave that with you to think about exchanges, transactions, time, money, non-verbal, friendships. What does it all mean? Who's doing the giving? Who's doing the receiving? And if you have received things that you don't like, take it down. Go and pray and give God the words that were said, whether it be words from the past. It's not too late, because God created time, but yet he is outside of time. How amazing is that? He's outside of time. He created time, so he can delve into the past and heal the past, and he makes the man or the woman that is here today. So it's over time, and I'll speak about that as I go. I so want to begin to share that with you and to hear from you. So this is what I had to share with you today. I hope you find it encouraging. In fact, I know it's going to encourage you without hoping that it is. So I hope that you'll hope it again. Come stop by, and please, if you've not done so, share the video, because that really helps the channel. Subscribe, comments. But I think above all, it's just good to be able to hear from you and to know how this is meeting you. Okay, so I'll see you again in the next video. So hopefully it will be 2 weeks like I've promised. So I'm really preparing to do that and to keep that consistent, because I want to be able to share with you and to hear from you. Okay, take care.